So in chapter 29, Jacob was a bit of a naughty guy, but it has serious consequences because he's so important to the future of God's message. Um, so let's carry on from here now. Thereupon Jacob made this vow: "If God will be with me, if he will protect me on my journey and give me food to eat and clothes to wear, and I come back safely to my father's house, then the Lord shall be a house of God. Then the Lord shall be my God, and this stone which I have set up as a sacred pillar shall be a house of God. And all that thou givest me, I will without fail allot a tenth part to thee." So I've put in a note, it's amazing that Jacob risks being homeless to test God, throwing it back. So he's throwing back the the um, the blessing that he's got from this dream of seeing, they call it Jacob's ladder. But the reality is that he's seen angels going up and down like on a ladder, and a human being again. You know, I think is it the fourth time in the Old Testament has appeared as God, like in the Garden of Eden, um, perhaps like the angels that appeared to Abraham. Maybe I think they were at least representing God. Um, yeah, and I can't remember the other times, but yeah, anyway, he's really coming back as Jacob from in this act of faith and showing that he really is. Well, this certainly shows that he's a man that believes in God, whereas all his other acts are pretty selfish, silly, silly selfishness. But with great responsibility comes great punishment for just doing small things. Whereas if you aren't doing anything very significant in your life, if you're not an important person, then if you do something silly, it does not really matter because it does not affect many people. He's going to affect many people. So it's extremely important. Um, yeah. If you want to know why it's important, I wondered as well. Well, by a coincidence, which is really a God incidence, I did my first church sermon today, which I'm feeling ecstatic about. In God's Holy Spirit makes you feel magnificent, and there's another challenge to being important and the risk that it has with if I do something wrong, and we all do. I need to hold on to humility and onto humbleness. That's what I learned. So I hope you can benefit that with me. Give me what they call the benefit of the doubt. Bless me with knowledge of your humbleness as a fellowship on the internet, and give back to me. I'll be very thankful for that. So just as Jacob gave back to God now with that wonderful statement. It's so good, I'll repeat it. Thereupon Jacob made this vow: "If God will be with me, if he will protect me on my journey and give me food to eat and clothes to wear, and I come back safely to my father's house, then the Lord shall be my God, and this stone which I have set up as a pillar shall be a house of God." So that's thinking of the temple in the future, what David and Solomon builds. And then finally, for now, how we give to charity, and we started off giving to the church, giving 10% of your wealth as a weekly offering. It's the final sentence is that it is, "And of all that thou givest me, I will without fail allot a tenth part to thee." Well, I could finish there because it's nice to finish on a high note, but my Christian experience says you should be grateful for sadness as well as joy because it gives you that balance of the reality of learning, of the challenge that I talked about 2 or 3 videos back, that we actually need. God created us uh, for that challenge, that the Garden of Eden would have been a challenge and we should have stuck with that. We shouldn't have been tempted, and the challenges have got too difficult for us. But yeah, it's still, we'll find out why. What I was saying about Jacob and why he's such a mischievous chap, it tells you in the book of Romans that means, basically, if you look at the book of Romans, there's a lot to learn, and one of the small parts but extremely important parts, is the connection between the Jews and the Gentiles, which were Greeks. And of course, Greek philosophy and Roman philosophy, although their culture was far too sinful and needed Christ, they had huge steps in morality that, but they died out because they did not have the grace of God, which was given to humanity through the heritage of the Old Testament, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which became Judah and the Jews. So the reason why Jacob was mischievous was that so that the Jews then that became Christians had to correct that, and that gave opportunity for the Greek Christians, who were a non-Jewish Christian is called a Gentile Christian, because a non-Jew is a Gentile. Someone who isn't a Jew is a Gentile. So the rest of the human race, many cultures, Jewish is just one culture out of many cultures of the world, but it's the one that God first developed in as the race that is the chosen educational race. They had to basically prove to the Greek Christians that they were good enough, and it joined the Greek Christians and the Jewish Christians together, who had formed under St. Paul this new Christian community in the city of Rome, but ancient Rome, not current day Rome. So that is the reason St. Paul, who is a Jewish Christian, ex-army figure, so a bit aggressive in his and very philosophical and aggressive, he was chosen because he was ex-army and ex-philosophy in the Jewish people. He was chosen, therefore, to lead the calm and peaceful protest for the religion of Christ for the world, who came from the Old Testament tradition, Judah, and Judah is is the one of the 12 sons of Jacob that became the tribes of Jacob. That was the one that was the naughty tribe. The other, like the Levites, were the priest tribe. Other tribes were better behaved. Perhaps Simeon was a good, not Simeon. Justin. Is it just? It reminds me of people I know. It helps me remember the names. But if you look in Exodus, just after Joseph, when his father Jacob is very elderly, he blesses all his 12 sons, and the 12 sons become the 12 tribes of Israel, because Israel's name becomes Jacob. Jacob's name becomes Israel. Sorry, wrong way around. It's a silly joke. If you do practical work like me, you can get things wrong way around, and it depends whether you're thinking on a high level or the low level of practical work, like nuts and bolts. So the importance of things going wrong in Jewish Old Testament for the Gentiles is it helps when they have to correct things for the groups to be bound together, like Han and the Bible. But yeah, I suppose more than that, because every tribe or culture has been given a special knowledge from God. But yeah, the leaders in this knowledge were the ones whose heritage is the Old Testament. So yeah, some of the Greeks especially gave money to poor Jewish Christians. The Christian Greeks in parts of Greece, it says in the book of Romans also, St. Paul says that they especially gave to poor Jewish Christians in Jerusalem because it was worth helping them, because they were the forerunners of the Christian faith, having the Old Testament heritage, whereas the other cultures of the world don't have this grace-filled. They didn't have this grace-filled heritage whatsoever. They were dead and dying out. They were short-lived. So the importance of having Old Testament heritage should be preserved, honoured, and respected. And again, it's because the burden of that means that if we can make bigger mistakes and have lesser consequences from God, and they if they make their mistakes, even if they're small, will have worse consequences for them than it would be for us. Just as if you were a teacher and you did something wrong in a school, you would be in big trouble. But if you were a warehouse worker like I am and did something seriously wrong, silly in my life, it wouldn't have repercussions outside of my family, only in my family. So it wouldn't hurt as many people. So your responsibility determines how much pain you get when you do something wrong. So that's why we should give honour with respect to a person's heritage. But of course, Jesus also said that he will turn things around and help those with a lesser heritage do well, and those with an already good heritage, he'll say, actually, you can chill out a bit, which is a nice thing when you think what I just said, that they actually suffer worse consequences for doing things wrong, and we all do things wrong as well as right. So it's a way that works, and I'm grateful for, and I hope you are too. I'll just read a few more verses, as I say, to bring a balance to this reading, because a balance is part of the world that God created, so we need it. Continue, chapter 29. Jacob continued his journey and came to the land of the eastern tribes. There he saw a well in the open country and 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it, because the flocks were watered from that well. Over its mouth was a huge stone, and all the herdsmen used to gather there and roll it off the mouth of the well and water the flocks. Then they would put it back in its place over the well. Jacob said to them, Where are you from, my friends? We are from Haran, they replied. He asked them if they knew Laban, the grandson of Nahor. They answered, Yes, we do. Is he well? Jacob asked. And they answered, Yes, he is well. And here is his... Anyway, it continues. He's found, this beautiful cousin of his that he'd love to marry, and things go a bit, as I say, he's a mischievous guy, things go a bit sour for him in the future. Okay, thanks be to God. This is to say that God has a sense of humour, and mischief isn't always a problem. It can be good mischief. Let's do the Lord of the Rings. Bilbo Baggins.